I'm going to go against Fred's advice, though. I'm going to go up and visit my sister for Christmas, but it's just me, her, and her son. So I figure low key kind of thing's okay, right?
Oh, so it's not the huge mob that it was at Thanksgiving.
No, no, I was like everybody was there.
Welcome to M2 Techcast, a live internet radio show offering the latest news and interviews with the people driving business, technology, and politics in Michigan. Now, your hosts, Matt Roush and Mike Brennan.
Hey, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And you're listening to the M2 Techcast right here at mitechnews.tv and PodcastDetroit.com.
Yep. And we have calling in from far away, Mele Ostale, who is my social media guru, and many other things, partner on several endeavors. But what he has a whole team of people that are very good at social media. And one of the things we were discussing the other day was LinkedIn is now beginning to sort of offer video, but you have to be pre-screened and all the rest in order to be accepted, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of the business folks out there might be interested in getting their videos up on LinkedIn, right, Mele?
Hey guys, glad to be with you again. It's always fun to be on your show. And we're never short of topics to talk about in digital marketing. Today we're going to focus on LinkedIn Live. It's, for lack of better words, a new tool. Businesses have a way to tap into their existing connections. So, and let's just use myself as an example. I got 15,000 close friends on LinkedIn.
And so, no, I'm all my first name, right? You know,
so. I know I'm all my first name. They're global, everywhere, mostly United States, of course. And so, if I want to tap into reaching out to my connections, I can easily do so by using LinkedIn Live's streaming tool. It is a new process, and it is designed to reach your professional audience. If you go to Google, type in LinkedIn Live, the first thing you're going to get is LinkedIn Live's main page regarding this topic. And there are a lot of there's a lot of value in going down this road. However, keep in mind this is only a live stream. LinkedIn does not allow you to use pre-recorded video. So we have to move away from the word video in this case and move into the word live stream. We're streaming a program that has to be at least 10 minutes. It can, I'm sorry. Yeah, it has to be at least 10 minutes. Ideally, you want to do it a little longer, but they will not allow you to talk for 5 minutes and try and reach your audience, haphazardly and just put something together. So actually, this show would be ideal for that. You could, if it's a video show that you're broadcasting, you could actually, go onto LinkedIn Live and become part of that process. It's valuable. Mike, you said you have what, 6,000 connections?
Yeah, a little over 6,000, more like 6,500 now.
Right.
I'm sure Matt has a bunch too, right, Matt?
Yeah, about 5,000. So yeah.
Well, there's a chunk. And the other thing I would have to ask is, since our friends at Podcast Detroit are
actually, I just looked it up, Mele. Sorry for interrupting. 5,966.
All right. Hey, cool.
Let's call that 6,000. Okay. Yeah.
Let's call
Thank
that
you.
6,000.
Thank you very much. So we know it's not fake news. So
yeah, right.
Exactly. And I think this would be ideal where it's not just about streaming through MI Tech News or
Podcast Detroit,
but perhaps run it through Podcast Detroit and stream it through there. And this way you're reaching an audience inside of LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn, before, putting this out on the market for everybody, did run their own internal tests and had their beta tests and companies that were doing this. And they did find some interesting things. Real quickly, they found that there were 7 times more reactions to the live stream of a connection than there was for just, let's say, posting, some industry information. And they also found out there were 24 times more comments for that live stream. So the results on their beta test is pretty positive and pretty significant. I mean, you're talking about getting a lot more people, engaging with you. Therefore, if you're running through as a subject matter expert, you're talking about a topic, whatever it might be, you're likely to get more people within your network to join, engage with you, talk to you, question you, fill in the comments. This is a good thing, because not a lot, there aren't a lot of streams that actually do this. And then I think the reason why LinkedIn is able to be successful on this topic is because you're tapping into your network. That's a good thing. So if you've been building up your network like the three of us have over the years, we have a good foundation to be able to get our message out to a larger audience and to get their engagement.
Well, we'll have to get to the wizard of the board there, Dave Phillips, who I know is listening. I'll have to apply. That's the other thing. You have to apply, right, to get accepted.
Yes, and that's the interesting thing. And here's when we talk about application, when you get to LinkedIn's website about or the webpage about LinkedIn Live, you will find your way through to the application. And there is something that you have to think about. Are you going to apply as an individual member, meaning for yourself, or are you applying for it as a company page? So there's a few different ways to go about this. Number one is, if you're going to run this through your company page, then you're helping build your brand, which is a good thing. If you're doing it as an individual member, then your company's second fiddle on this, and you're running this as an individual. From LinkedIn's perspective, that's two different paths that they're asking people to take. So you could decide which way you want to apply. You don't get a response very quickly on the application, so it might be one of those things where you run you apply as soon as possible, and then wait until they get back to you. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The other thing is, you have to prove that you've been running live streams before. You can't just not be, somebody who's had, without experience in running a show and just go and apply. They want examples.
Covered. I think we have that covered, right, Matt? So
yeah, just a few.
like 4 years now, so well, go ahead. Sorry.
I think you guys are good, no question about it. And I would certainly suggest that you run through the application. However, this application process raises an interesting point. LinkedIn wants quality. They don't want everybody to just jump in and do a live stream. They actually want people who have had experience first, who understand what it is that they're going to talk about and what a show means, and then join the LinkedIn Live program. So if you have no experience, go figure out how to get some experience first, and then come back and let LinkedIn decide if your level of quality is what they're looking for. So this is a very interesting thing. Not everybody's going to be able to join. I'm guessing that they're going to turn people down.
Okay. And so easy process, right? Just Google LinkedIn Live and it'll take you right there.
Absolutely, it comes up at the very top. And you're going to run into multiple pages at the end of the day. I would say that there are roughly 5 important pages from the starting point that you're going to work your way through to find, to learn about what LinkedIn Live is all about. Mm-hmm. There is something that I think there are some interesting points to keep in mind. So the first question is, well, how do you stream from your laptop, for example, through LinkedIn? And the answer to that question is that you have to use a third party. You can't just turn on your camera and start streaming inside of LinkedIn. Rather, they have roughly 9 or so third-party companies or tools, if you wish, that have been authorized to run this, or that have the necessary technical capabilities to interact with LinkedIn's system. So just real quickly, Restream, Wirecast, StreamYard, Switcher, Social Live, Easy Live, Teradek Core, Wowza Cloud, Vimeo Live, LiveU Solo, and Brand Live. Now, a lot of these, I would say, not everybody knows. It's not like your mainstream streaming companies like Livestream, for example, who's been out on the market for a long time. However, this list is available through those pages on LinkedIn Live. So if you don't have an account with any one of these, I would say set up an account, get that started, run your application, and see how this goes. My guess is the one that most people are familiar with is going to be Vimeo Live.
Okay, we got about 2 minutes left. So what can we kind of compress down into Cliff's notes about pointers?
Yeah, about
All right,
guidelines,
so pointer.
right?
Yeah, so guidelines. Let's talk about the guidelines. Now, and I'm just going to run through the list real quickly. You're not allowed to stream more than once a day. That's important. I mentioned this earlier, no pre-recorded content. You cannot sell anything on your videos. You cannot show a sponsor's logo. You cannot run a promotional stream. It has to be informational. So these are very interesting guidelines that are trying to focus their attention on quality and education. I did mention the 10-minute issue before, and this is kind of interesting. Your stream cannot be about how to use LinkedIn.
Really? Crazy, huh?
Right. LinkedIn is not a subject as far as your stream is concerned. Find something else to talk about.
Wow.
That sort of reminds me of those old scam ads, make money working from home, and it turned out the working from home was placing ads in other publications that said make money working at home.
Yep.
And getting people to pay you for that. They're not looking for that kind of thing. So.
Yep. Now here, one last point. LinkedIn is going to be monitoring or keeping track of your progress, meaning that, let's say you said you're going to start a stream at 2 p.m. And it's 2:05 and you still haven't started, they're going to be tracking your lateness. So they are asking you that if you say you're going to start at 2 p.m., you're starting at 2 p.m. And so if you're late, keep in mind that at some point you may get banned.
Okay. We got
Interesting,
a little less than a minute left, so now you can do your shameless plug. Talk about your company.
All right, real quickly, my name is Maile Ostale. I'm the CEO of Smart Finds Marketing, located in the Detroit metro area. We're a 33-year-old digital marketing agency. We have been 100% digital for 16 years now. We went in 2004, 100% digital. And our focus is to manage a client's entire web presence, from websites to marketing, your SEOs and your socials and your newsletters and your advertising, your Google Analytics, your metrics, pulling it all together to produce a bang-up job at the end of the day.
Hey, and I can do an unvarnished testimonial here. I've been working with Maile now for 4 or 5 years. And when I first started with him, I had a pretty low web sort of response, as it were. And he's like quadrupled that now, and I have a much bigger audience. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right. Thanks very much, Maile Ostale, Smart Finds Marketing. We'll be back in just a minute with another segment of the M2Techcast. For right now, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And you're watching at PodcastDetroit.com and other fine podcast outlets.
Thanks, Maile.
Lawrence Technological University graduates earn a degree.
I don't see your next guest yet.
In fact, when it comes to earning potential, the Brookings Institution ranks LTU 5th among U.S. colleges and universities. Be enriched. Be more. At LTU, possible is everything.
Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
What do you get at Lawrence Technological University? Everything. Great labs and studios, supportive professors, plus a full campus life, NAIA athletics, and all the software you need to succeed. Be smart. Be more. At LTU, possible is everything.
Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
Lawrence Technological University.
After this, let's come out. We'll just do LTU's LTU news as filler until she gets here. Oh, are we out?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, caught us there. Yes. All right. Hey, it's Mike Brennan.
And it's Matt Roush.
And we're waiting for our guest to arrive, Lisa Diggs from Buy Michigan Now. He hasn't quite joined us yet. So, Matt, there's got to be a lot of exciting things happening at LTU because I get all your emails. So what do you want to highlight?
Well, we're finishing up the semester right now. Our spring semester is going to start the day after Martin Luther King Day, January 19th. And at this time, we are still planning on bringing students back to campus and, operating in concordance with all CDC and state health department guidelines, assuming that we're, allowed to do that. We do plan on bringing people back January 19th. And as we did in the fall semester, we will give students a choice between what kind of classes they would prefer, whether it's in person, online, or a hybrid of the two. And at this point, I mean, we're adding some new programs. It's a pretty exciting time. We are looking forward to things getting back to normal after the vaccine comes around. But we'll have some more talk on that later with our favorite epidemiologist Fred Brown. That's going to be coming up at the bottom of the hour. Right now, let me look at the website and see what the latest thing is. One thing I can tell you, I can give you a bit of a scoop here. We are just finishing up the website on it. We're not quite ready yet, but we are introducing a 2-year master's degree program in physician assistant studies, starting with the fall semester of 2022. That is a natural outgrowth of our nursing program, which was established in 2016, the fall of 2016. And we're going to be graduating our first nursing graduates pretty soon here. That program, basically, it is unique in that it is a direct admit program. A lot of the state schools, you have to spend your first 2 years in something called pre-nursing, and then you may or may not get admitted into the nursing program for the final 2 years. We're selective enough that we admit people directly into the nursing program so that you don't have to worry about getting into another program and taking another step and making another risk in another 2 years. Our students have been on the front lines of treating people in the COVID pandemic. They've learned more than they ever thought they would based out of this pandemic, that's for sure. And they basically, our nursing program has a partnership with Providence Hospitals, Ascension, Michigan. That is the Catholic healthcare nonprofit. And they do their clinical rotations at Ascension Hospitals in Southfield and Novi, and a number of other Ascension hospitals and clinics around the Detroit area. That physician assistant program is sort of a natural outgrowth of that. There is a huge need for physician assistants. It is one of the top 5 jobs with the Department of Labor going back, a decade. There's a huge need for them as the healthcare system shifts. And basically take a look at the LTU website and search for a physician assistant program. We will be getting that website up and running in the next day or two.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, there she is. I see Lisa. Okay, she's here.
Sorry, guys. For some reason, it was not letting me log in.
Really?
Ah, okay.
Okay. Well, we had Matt talk a little about LTU headlines. So why don't we introduce you now, Lisa? I know you were one of the, back when we were in the studio, where was that, on Hilton Road? Remember when we had that studio, Matt? Just one little room?
Oh, yeah.
Lisa was one of our first guests. So
That's true.
yes. So let's talk a little bit about what you do now. Buy Michigan Now. Let's just assume that some people don't know what that is. So why don't you explain?
So Buy Michigan Now started about 13 years ago, trying to encourage people to help revitalize our economy at a time when we desperately needed it by buying from Michigan-made businesses and buying Michigan-made products. And honestly, I didn't think that it would be more needed than it was then until now.
Oh boy. Yeah. Go ahead,
I
Matt.
mean, back then, I mean, our unemployment rate was about 8.5%. And, it seemed like the end of the world was coming economically. And that was the impetus. I was trying to figure out what could I do to be a part of it? What could I do to help? And one of the few things you could do was, there was hardly any tools out there for people to try to figure out what was a locally made product, what was a Michigan-based business, all those kinds of things. When I couldn't find the tools, I decided to create some tools, which is what we have now at buymichigannow.com. And gosh, right now, I think it's even more necessary than ever.
So you're looking awfully festive there with the Christmas tree in the background.
Well, if you're going to talk holiday gifts, why not?
Yeah, and I know you've got a holiday gift guide. So you said you could show us a few items from the gift guide and sort of explain how it works. So why don't we do that now?
Sure. It just so happens that beneath my tree, every item you see here is
How
made
convenient.
in Michigan.
Yes.
So here's something I love for this year. These are journals from a company called Journals Unlimited in Bay City. And they've got everything from small ones that are books I've read to fishing, so you can record great fishing spots, to this one's family memories. And it's not just a blank journal. It actually asks questions to guide people. But, with all the homeschooling that's happening, a tool like this is a great thing. And I found the one that we recommended in the gift guide was family memories, but really, I think I would have given anything to have a record of what my family thought about going through the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918. So not only for yourself as an experience, but something to pass on to future generations, that they can look back and see, what everybody was going through and what it felt like to experience the time that we're going through right now. So,
And as we've discussed, this will probably not be the last pandemic. There'll probably be other versions of it in the future. So
I think that's absolutely true. This one's another one of my favorites. This is from a company called Detroit Shirt Company. If you can see the bottom, unsalted, shark free.
Oh yeah.
The Michigan shield, but a little bit of humor added to that. They're a company out of Grand Blanc. We have a lot of books in the gift guide. This is another one for women. Great Lakes Girl. This is a company called Livin' Fresh that makes these really cool things in all kinds of different sizes and styles, and they make a lot more than just that. When people go to the gift guide, they can search. We have 200 items across 20 different categories. Wow. So there's things for babies, there's for her, there's for him, there's food categories, there's things for the home, there's things to stock your bar, things to help in the kitchen, all kinds of different categories. Books by Michigan authors. We have more than 30 books by Michigan authors that are in the gift guide this year. And so when you go into the gift guide, you might love the item that we put in there, like the family journal that I showed, or you might just want to click on the link to that company's website to either buy that item or search all the other things that that company makes. So that's the reason that we designed it the way that we did. Every year we pick out items that we specifically like for that year. But if you click on that link, not only can you buy, you can actually look and say, hey, not that sweatshirt, but this one about camping in Michigan, or, not that journal, but this one about fishing or whatever. I don't know. I just went outdoors all the way there, but, but the other items, maybe not that piece of jewelry, but gosh, I really like this one. Or maybe I'm going to get one for one person and one for another.
And of course, the point being is this is clearly all Michigan made, right? So, I mean, we're helping the local economy.
Yeah, everything is not only Michigan made, but Michigan businesses selling it. So, for example, I mentioned the authors, the books by Michigan authors. If you click on the link to that book, you can learn more about that book, but you can either buy it directly from the author, or it's going to take you to an independent bookstore to buy it. Oh, so nice. It's another way of, and then again, once you click on the link, you get to that independent bookstore. Books are a great gift. Look for whatever other books who else is on your list that might benefit from a book, and buy 5 of them from that independent bookstore and help keep them in business at a time that's really, they're in a challenging situation facing Amazon and things like that, as well as possibly being closed. So there's a lot of challenges for people reading on Kindles instead of books. So.
What are the more popular items? What's people buying more of than say other things?
I think this year, with good reason, and we do it so well here, food is really popular. Part of it has to do with the fact that a lot of people started cooking that maybe weren't cooking before. We have a company called Fessler's that's in our gift guide, and we put 4 different spice blends in there that they have, because if you've just started cooking, over this pandemic, like a lot of people did, then these spice blends where you don't have to come up with your own recipe, but just toss them in with something are a great way to kind of take your game up another notch. There are people that are in need of essential foods. And so if you do something like a gift basket filled with, just basic essentials that people want and need that are Michigan brands, that can get them through. There are people that are only buying the things that they need to literally just feed their family and get by, and maybe something that's nut brittle from Granny's Confections is a huge treat that they wouldn't be able to have otherwise. No matter who it is, I think we all understand that if you've got kids and they have to have the latest game, okay, fine. But for the most part, almost everybody has people on their list that they're buying for. If you're buying for an adult, I challenge you that you can't find something that they would like amongst these 200 plus items that we have available to keep those dollars local.
Whenever I went up to Traverse City, I didn't mean to step on you there, Matt. My dad, when he was alive, I was under instructions to bring back peanut brittle from Mackinac City fudge. That was his thing. He, I'd be waiting for me when I arrived at the door. So.
Yeah, this Granny's Confections is in Howell, and as an example, some of these places too, if they actually have a store, you might not have to deal with shipping. They will come and meet you at the curb and bring it to your car in some of these places as well. So that's the other thing to think about.
Sure.
You're also looking to branch into business to business services a little bit. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, we've always done that. So any Michigan-based business is invited to join our campaign. In fact, encouraged would be a better word, which they can do for free, or they can become paid members. Right now, we're actually offering 40% off paid membership to try to give people a break during this difficult time. So they can go to our website and see that. As a matter of fact, before I go to the B2B, we have a whole section of deals. We thought about the Amazon Prime days and how could a little guy compete with that. So we went out to companies and asked them if they wanted to offer deals. So right now on our holiday page, in addition to finding the gift guide, you can find bargains from more than 24 Michigan companies. And one of those is our opportunity for people to buy a membership at a discounted rate. But we do features. We have a new website. Our existing website relaunched quietly during the pandemic because it wasn't really appropriate to make a big deal out of it. But in that, we identified 9 different niches that we think we can help really serve and grow. So there's food, there's beverages, technology is one, mobility is one. Basically industries that we think not only can we impact, but that really represent what the state is all about. And so we do a lot of features in those areas on businesses that are growing in those ways as well. So it's a fit for both. And in particular right now, because so many Michigan businesses are struggling, we're looking for companies to partner with that might be interested in offering a discount on their B2B services to these struggling small businesses to help them. One of the things that I read, now this is a couple years old, but I read a study a couple years ago that only 59% of Michigan businesses had a website. That was a couple years ago. It might be better, but it's pretty low, right?
Yeah.
And so that maybe was okay before. But now in the situation that we're in, if they haven't figured out a way to sell online, we really have to help them figure out a way to sell online, because we don't know how long this is going to go on. And Mike, as you said earlier, we don't know when the next pandemic may come
along. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be another, unfortunately. So
yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. So if there's companies out there that do web hosting or web development or SEO or any of those things that might help these companies get an upper hand on doing that, and they want to partner with us, I'm happy to take those calls. So.
Well, we're going to have to leave it at that. Lisa, we'll get you back on the show after the holidays to do a recap of what was selling really well. But why don't you tell folks one more time how they can find you on the web?
So go to that's BUY, Michigan, now, NOW.com. And the deals and all the holiday stuff is on a dedicated page called Holiday.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the patience.
Hey,
no problem. Lisa Diggs from BuyMichiganNow.com. Thanks for being with us today. We'll be back with another segment of the M2Techcast in just a minute. For right now, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And you're watching PodcastDetroit.com and MyTechNews.tv.
Thanks, Lisa.
Hey, sorry, guys. I don't know what
graduates earn a
happened, but I
degree
really couldn't
and
get
a
there.
higher starting
Oh,
salary.
no problem.
In fact,
Okay.
when it comes to earning potential, the Brookings Institution
There's Fred.
ranks LTU
There he
on
is.
U.S.
Hey.
colleges and universities. Be
Oh.
enriched. Be more. At
I've
LTU,
been up
possible
almost
is
all night.
everything.
I haven't seen
Oh,
it.
hold up, okay.
Lawrence Tech grads are among
You
the
have to let me know.
highest of any
I'll tell you what
university
we're
in
working
America.
on.
Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and
30
coaches.
seconds.
Why wait?
Beautiful.
Find out more at ltu.edu.
What do you get at Lawrence Technological University? Everything. Great labs and studios, supportive professors, plus a full campus life, NAIA athletics, and all the software you need to succeed. Be smart. Be more. At LTU, possible is everything.
Salaries of Lawrence Tech grads are among the highest of any university in America. Plan a campus visit to meet with counselors, faculty, and coaches. Why wait? Find out more at ltu.edu.
Whoop. Whoop. We got music. We don't need music. Well, there we go. Okay.
All right, take two.
Live
there, it's Matt
TV. You
Rouse.
gotta love it, huh? Okay. Cool. Let's start.
Hello, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And we're back with another segment of the M2Techcast with our weekly visit from our favorite infectious disease expert, Fred Brown. Fred, I got two quick questions for you before we get into what your presentation is today.
Sure.
First of all, I just read this morning that the spike in cases and deaths that we're seeing now is related to activities at Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah, for death, it takes about 5 to 6 weeks to run through the system. Death is a very slow indicator and trigger for response to a virus. So yeah,
Okay.
And we'll
So
sadly,
we could expect to see the Thanksgiving spike then next month, basically.
yeah, actually, right around Christmas, New Year's. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sadly, is it? Yeah. So we've got surges on top of
Ho,
surges.
ho, ho. Yeah. So,
Okay, and the other thing was there was there's a couple of establishments in northern Michigan that are openly defying the health department orders. There's a barbecue place in Gaylord called Iron Pig that is now selling T-shirts that say "Barbecue with a side of freedom" and "Risk it for the brisket," because they're offering dine-in service, and they've had their liquor license stripped, but they're continuing to do it anyway. And then there was a place in Ellsworth.
It is great food. You can't argue with the food, but man, the health policy is not their major.
Yeah,
the
right,
side
right.
dish of death, right?
Yeah, culinary arts, right? Yeah, definitely not epidemiology. And there's a place on US 31 just south of Charlevoix called Frisky's Farm Market and Orchard that had their Santa Claus party as scheduled on Saturday, and there were pictures from a drone. Literally thousands of people milling about. Now, granted, most of them outside, but also most of them without masks. So what do you tell people like that? I don't know if there's anything we can tell them.
Well, it's sadly, it's not just about people accepting their own level of risk. This is something that we all share together. And it's not so much that, the person who's, going out for a brisket is so much at risk. It's that they unintentionally may become ill and then pass it on to others. And that's what's so tragic about this disease. It's not like the flu or other where you get the symptom and you say, oh, I'm sick, I better stay away. In this case, you feel great. 50% of us feel great even when we have the flu. We have it. And so that's the big risk, is that, it moves from you who's not having a very bad impact on to someone who, sadly does have a bad impact on. We sadly don't know enough about the science to be able to predict who those people are, other than if you're older, we know that there you've got about a 14 to 18 times greater chance if you're over 65, 70, respectively, to die from the virus. And that's what's so sad about it, is that it's sort of a shared responsibility we all have. And the problem with eating brisket, as you all know, is you want to take off the mask and go to it, right? And we just can't. That's the difference, I guess, between shopping at a store where where you've got some distance people, and when you're eating close to people and you're having to take off your mask and to eat and drink. There's just no way around it. And so if they have a place outside to eat the brisket, absolutely go for it, But if you have to eat inside, I wouldn't do that for more than 10, 15 minutes. So you can order first and get there, just eat scarf it all down fast. That may lead to some unintended consequences. But my suggestion would be not to do that. If you have,
I guess I'd rather have a gastrointestinal event than a respiratory event.
There you go.
I love the stuff, and assure up north they know exactly what they're doing with the food, but it isn't so much the danger to you. You can probably take on that risk for people who are going into the restaurant. It's just that you unintentionally are going to, just chances are you're going to contact someone who's going to be who might have bad symptoms, and that's the tragedy of the situation. We do know quite a bit more now about mandates and no mandates, and I can show you some interesting slides. This is some work.
Please do.
So what I've been working on is actually what I did. I was asked by one of the governors who I'm working with if they could have a playbook, they could have a roadmap to success based on. So what we've done with COVID is that we asked all the jurisdictions. There's 64 jurisdictions in the United States. We've asked them all to come back to the CDC. This was back in October, late October, I think October 22nd. And the CDC said, can you please tell us exactly what your plans are? And now we've had a chance to review all those plans. And the governors have come back saying, okay, where are the holes? What do we have to watch for? And so we've come up with a playbook, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's still in edit form. So if you have any changes you want to make, you still have that chance, but we're going to get it out today because it is a little bit on the late side because we're starting to get, I can't see, there we are. Let me share this here. We're starting to get vaccines already being delivered to vaccinator sites.
I heard that the first ones are going to be delivered this week, not in the UK, I think, right?
Oh yeah, the UK is already underway. That's right, Tuesday. They're going to start with those. That was the wrong document. I apologize. So let me see if I can.
I got to get that 5-hour energy over to you there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been working on this for a couple of weeks now, and we've got some really great people on it. So I think it's really going to help people kind of understand what some of the issues are. But here's what it looks like. You're the first to see it, literally. Well, you have some editors. Feeding COVIDs, your jurisdictions roll back to normalcy. You can see we've split this into 3 large sections. The first large section is, pre-vaccine viral suppression. So as you know, we're going through, and I don't know if you can see this all right, or let me see if I can get it on the one page here.
Yeah, it's kind of an eye test right now.
Yeah, I can't, I need to stop sharing and move it into one-page format off the line. I apologize, I can't manipulate it online.
You can also do an enlarge of the page.
Yep. There we are. So, okay. Oh, I went back to 2 pages. Apologies. We're going to get there though. 1 second. Here we are. You take a look, and I'll be back. And I believe it's this one. So here's
there we go.
So here it is, defeating COVID, and basically we have, and this is we've split it into 3 sections. The first, after an executive summary, where we talk about the challenges and the imperatives, we basically create a roadmap that looks like this. And basically, there are 3 big things you want to do. You want to reduce and locate the virus. Here, this is all about masking and antigen testing, right? You want to be able to mask to reduce the COVID, and we'll talk about in a second just how effective masks can be. And then with some goals, you want to N95 mask for every citizen every day, and you want to use masks and distancing when you can. And then we have antigen testing as a second part of locating, understanding where the virus is, how powerful it is, understanding which of your populations are at biggest risk. Then we go into vaccination, which is going to happen, as you know, starting basically December 12th. We'll start to have the first people in Michigan being vaccinated. We're waiting for the final We're waiting for the final release of the Pfizer material. I've seen some of the data in advance. It looks great. I'm looking forward to seeing the complete data sets, especially around safety and efficacy, because we've got very small data sets to be able to analyze so far, kind of 200, 500 patient level data. Now we're getting 7,000, 8,000 patient level data sets, and that's going to be revealing. But we'll find out more about that. Then the next level. Oh, I'm bouncing around here. I apologize. The next level down is actually improving. Is then once you've got the vaccination out and you're starting to get into standard environments of simply vaccinating and keeping people at herd immunity, then you want to monitor, maintain, and improve it. And you can see that we've got two things. One is serology testing, which we haven't really talked that much about. And I should probably talk to you a lot more about that because we're going to start to have to do that as we roll out these vaccines, I think. Safety, and that actually we're starting to track herd immunity. And then we're going to look at future pandemic responses by building sentinel testing infrastructure and pre-positioning rapid response resources for the next, for COVID outbreaks and the next pandemic. And finally, you want to look at kind of 3 levels of normalcy. One is healthcare normalcy. How do we do that and make sure we can maintain this this new normal that COVID's created for us? The social and economic resiliency, and then we want to look at private and public partnering. You'll have to see, we have to go so fast with this infrastructure. The only way we can do that is through partnerships. We'll talk, and this goes through how to do that in quite a bit of detail. So with that, we talked about this slide, which is important. States that want to muddle through and just say, we'll get there eventually, just stay with us, and you don't have to worry about masking or hygiene or doing testing in the meantime. If you're in a muddle through state, and there are some that are have been called to task recently, in Iowa, for example, in the Atlantic, has been called to task for not doing enough. And if they continue to kind of muddle through, they're going to have about 2.5 times more deaths before they can get the vaccine effects, and it's going to cost their economy about 10% of their GDP more than a state that does not muddle through. It actually tries to control 2 things. One is the allocation process, and the second is to try to control the virus before you start the vaccination process, so you're not trying to vaccinate in the middle of a pandemic, right? So that shift in the curve from a high starting point to a low starting point, and the shift in the slope of the curve from something that's pretty effective to something that's ineffective in terms of allocation means that you're talking about literally 2.25 times a death and about 30% greater impact on your economy than states that start to say, we want to get control of this, we want to get ready for the vaccination program, that's that. And you asked about, this is the cost, about $6 trillion more if we decide not to do anything in advance of this versus if we do decide to do something about this. And that's based on Larry Summers' calculations. And he, as you know, was former head of the Treasury, former head of National Economic Advisors. I came up with about $1 trillion more than he did, but we're right in the same ballpark, and he's a better name than me, probably. He's also a better economist, off the record.
Okay, we won't tell anyone. So.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. I try, but he's actually one of the great pros. So here's the question you were asking about, Matt, is, suppose we have no mask policy. Well, we actually looked at 23 states and 7 countries. I'm working with a number of these states, so I have a little bit more access to data than others. If you decide, so you can see, 1 month before we implemented, this is basically kind of June, July timeframe. If we look at 1 month period before we implemented the mandate, you can see there's not much variability between these states, right? It's all kind of in a confidence interval that's it's pretty much in the same range. We were a pretty flat part of the curve with the exception of California, Florida, and Texas at this time. So we were looking at other states. Now, what happened was some states enacted a mandate and other states didn't enact a mandate. If you enacted a mandate, then your average rate of decline in COVID new case reports was about 25% over the next 2 month period. And in some cases, in some countries that have better compliance than we did, they actually went down to 0 so quickly that it's off the chart. So some of them went down to 35% and then hit no more transmission. So that's how effective masks can be. Now, if you were in a state that did mandate a mask, that did not mandate a mask, then you'd have over the same period in the United States and these other countries, you would have 150% more new cases. This is a dichotomy that has almost no overlap. In other words, there's almost in no case did states with a mandate have more COVID new cases than states without a mandate. In no case did that happen. Well, even more interesting was the state of Kansas. Did I tell you guys about this?
No.
So the state of Kansas actually had an opt-in mask policy. And they have a certain number of counties that opted in. I think, about a third of them opted in. And we tracked that. And those counties actually had a decrease that opted in and said, we're going to have a mandate. Those counties had a decrease of 6% in Kansas. 70% of the counties did not opt in. They said, no, masks aren't for us. That's not for us. We want to, not opt in. Thank you very much. What do you think happened in those counties? So minus 6% for the counties that did opt in, right? This is all Kansas. This is all the same health system, all the same sort of level of population density, all that stuff pretty controlled for now, in the state. What do you think happened to the counties who didn't have masks versus the counties that did have masks?
I'm guessing that without masks went up, right?
The without masks went up 150%, just like we predicted.
Yeah.
What's interesting is because these masks, these counties that did opt in were pretty close to the counties that didn't opt in, you didn't have as good an effect of a full mandate, right? Because you had a little bit of crossover, a little bit. And so instead of having a 25% impact, we only had a minus 6% impact. But hey, minus 6% is a heck of a lot better than plus 150%.
Right.
And so they do work. So we could go with opt-in mandates if you wanted to and say, no, certain counties, certain groups who don't want to mandate have the masks, and it still is going to impact the overall situation. So we go into masking and how important that continues to be. We also talk about antigen testing, and here is the great quote from Tony Fauci. If you had a national plan for testing, what would it be? And here's what he said: surveillance testing, flooding the system with tests, getting a home test that you could do yourself. It's highly sensitive, highly specific. And you know why that's terrific? Because if you decided that you wanted a small gathering with your mother-in-law or father-in-law and a couple of children, and you tested right there, you could test and understand what your situation was in terms of your health. And so you have a do-it-yourself kind of, am I contagious test right there in your house every day. And there are paper tests that are available that are coming out of Boston right now, coming out of Yale right now, and out of Harvard. And those are 70% accurate. So if you do enough of those each time, you're going to get a pretty good sense of whether you got the disease or not. And the idea here is you don't have to be, he says, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. There's nothing that has no risk. This is going to have some risk, but it's so much better if we're able to do what I call ubiquitous testing into the future. And so that's what we're recommending the states move to. First, continue to do your symptomologic testing, double your capacity so you can do so you can actually do surveillance testing, actually test people who aren't feeling sick, understand what the real level of COVID is in your environment, and then move to ubiquitous testing where you can do this every day. And the FDA should start to be approving these diagnostic tests shortly. So we go through that and the different kinds of testing, what we recommend. And then here's basically what we need to get to. Right now, you can see that little line that shows kind of the number of 2 million tests a day. We're able to do about 2.15 billion tests per day in reality. Our theoretical capacity, if all we did was these tests all the time, would be 3.5 million a day. So we can get to 5 million a day with surveillance testing, with some work, but we can get there pretty quick. The trick is to move to a different kind of test, ubiquitous testing, where we have 20 million a day being capable of testing. Then you really know what your status is at all times. You can create weather maps. It's just like back in the day when we had old weather maps. Remember, we couldn't predict more than 3 days in advance. We couldn't really understand whether it was going to rain or snow or whether it was going to be windy. Now we can tell that to an hour and exactly what your location is. And the reason is we just have so much more data coming in. Those supercomputers that are looking at all that data from a grid that's literally within every mile of the country versus before when we had grids that were sort of at every airport. You can really get accurate, and that's the same thing that we're doing with ubiquitous testing. That's the idea. And here we talked a little bit about how that would work at your home and how you have a detector at home, or you can simply use these paper tests that turn different color. Those technologies are all there. And then we move into, okay, you're ready. We give people punch lists. So at the end of each section, we say, here's what you must do, right? In pre-vaccination, you got to ramp up the supply. You've got to specifically sets of these kinds of masks. You've got to create early testing triggers and so on. We go through all those things that every jurisdiction has to do at the end of each section. In section 2, we actually talk about vaccination, which everyone is focused on right now, but it's just as important to get things down early. And so here is we're putting in the electronic links as we speak right now. And you know about how we're going to allocate the testing initially. So you've got to have every jurisdiction has to have an allocation system once it gets the CDC vaccines. And this can be based on policy priorities, which we talked a little bit about, or based on the infrastructure that you've got. If you don't have very good infrastructure, you're probably going to have to make people come to you rather than have people rather than having the vaccine come to them. So it'll differ a little bit by the jurisdiction and what their starting points are. And basically, what we see a lot of is people saying, "Oh, we'll just use our flu vaccine infrastructure." And I'll tell you, this is nowhere near enough. And you can kind of see the differences between a flu vaccine requirement and the first column, which has 100. We're talking about a third of the doses required. We're talking about booster shots being required now. We're talking about established relationships in old technology versus brand new technology. We're talking about supply chain constraints that are incredibly difficult. And so so it's not using that same infrastructure as you would for the flu. It's a good starting point, but you sure shouldn't count on it. And then we talk a little bit about what your metrics should look like. And here we have the state of Massachusetts metrics, where we look at levels of viral control you've got. That's talking about masking and the RT levels around masking. We've got infection prevention, which is all around testing. We have infection treatment, which is what your hospital capacity looks like. And as you know, around the country, these are getting filled up. And then we're looking at vaccination levels and distancing deployments in order to control, whether we can flatten the curve a little bit. We talk about what dose volumes you can expect. And then here's exactly what the supply is going to look like in January through June, if everything goes according to the manufacturer's current plans. And when you're going to move from a forced economy of allocation, saying, here's your test, to one where you can go and say, CVS, I want to have this test, here's my $30. I want to have this vaccine, here's my $30, and be able to be free of the constraints of the demand curve. We think that's probably going to happen right around as soon as Merck comes on the market. They won't be constrained. That'll be probably around June. So it'll be a very controlled market initially, hybrid market, and then moving to an open market. Here are the different kinds of tests, and we'll save this for another day. But there are differences in the tests, and maybe next week we can talk a little bit about why you want to use different vaccines for different situations. And here's the rollout, which actually ACIP is talking about this week, and we'll have a final recommendation from them. We think it's going to look something like this, with the first phase looking in 3 phases, A, B, and C. And we believe that it's going to be initially the healthcare and long-term care residents moving to essential work and moving to adults, but that could change. There are a number of us, me included, who would like to see a little bit more of the adults with high risk occurring a little bit earlier in this process. When we look at, out to March 21st, that just seems, long to me, and I'm concerned about death rates in this particular group in the 1C group.
Matt, have you resumed smoking again so you can get into the high risk category?
No. Quitting smoking was the hardest thing I've ever done. I have no desire to repeat that.
Man, that is a tough one.
Yeah.
And gosh, it's a long document, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what everyone's going to be getting. Here is we go into the data sets that are required. We actually talk about how all these systems have to come together, where these linkages have to occur, and we can talk about that maybe next week in more detail. We then talk about the idea that you want to get as many vaccinator sites as possible enrolled and qualified, so you don't have to have thousands of people going to just a single site.
Well, which was going to be one of my questions. Is the military going to be involved in this? It seems like they have the logistical knowledge to be able to pull this off, right?
There are a number of states who are going to be using their National Guard to do the distribution, and I'm really recommending strongly that people do have a mobile capability. You can see, and this is part of New Jersey. They do want to have mobile capability in certain areas of New Jersey where residents don't have quite the same amount of coverage that we think we need in vaccinator sites that are fixed. So we talk a little bit about the process of which you need to enroll these vaccinator sites. We talk about mobile sites versus fixed sites. You can see here the big truck coming in, so you're able to move that around. Particularly good for Pfizer type vaccines where you've got a very difficult supply chain and you need to have one qualification and get it around to people. Here's the fixed sites. Walgreens and CVS are probably going to be the bigger chains that are involved. And then we talk about each of these processes, and there are 3 critical processes: allocation, delivery, and administration of the vaccine. And you want to make sure you're focused and have a team that's focused on each of these areas. We go into a lot of what a minimal viable product looks like versus an ultimate system. So you can choose to automate any of these processes along a continuum. And we can talk a little bit about this maybe next time, because we do get into some detail here. You can get a sense of just how much capability some of the jurisdictions have already versus others who are going to have challenges if they're luckily some of these jurisdictions are smaller, so they still are going to have some challenges. We talk about then for each case, the minimal viable product for each of the functionality required. There's about 30 functions that we've highlighted that says you've got to have this kind of capability for each of your processes. And then we talk about, if you have those kind of capabilities, here are the data sets that you need to actually have. And a lot of these are CDC required. There are about 7 of them that we're suggesting people do support so they can actually run the systems and pull the data appropriately. And we then move very rapidly into the idea of how important it's going to be to have good communications. Because without good communications, it's unlikely we're ever going to achieve herd immunity. There's so many people who are resisting the vaccine, distrustful of it, that without explaining to people why it's good for them, we won't make herd immunity. We'll be between 20 and 30% below what we need to be in herd immunity, and that's still a very dangerous environment where we can still have outbreaks. So
I hate to stop you, Fred, but we're running out of time here.
Well, we're in the middle of communications. What better chance to talk?
Yes, I was going to say, nice segue there. Yes. So I'm assuming
stay tuned next week when we. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming this book will be available to government folks if they want to get it from you.
I'd be happy to put it on your website. Anyone who wants it, welcome to have it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we'd be happy to publish it. So
beautiful.
Absolutely.
That information and we can get it out to the right folks.
I'll just go to the last page where we have a nice road with some good mile markers showing we've got crossed the finish line.
Okay.
So at any rate, that's what I've been working on, and it'll go out today, and I'll send it over to you guys, and please send it out, as to anyone who wants one. Absolutely.
Sounds great, Fred. We'll have you back next week. Now,
for what it's worth, for those keeping score at home that weren't watching, Whitmer just announced an extension of 12 days at a minimum.
So what does that mean exactly?
The pause continues.
The pause continues for at least 12 days. The director of Health and Human Services just said, don't expect everything to just pop open on that 13th day. There's going to be a phased approach. So, yeah.
So 12 days. We're looking at
the 21st.
Okay. All right. Well, good to know. We're breaking news here. All right.
Wow.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes. So thanks very much. And if you want more information from Fred, it's at fredbrown.com. And by the way, I went there, and a lot of the videos that we've done with you on this show are not on that website.
Oh, send them over. We'll put them up. I apologize. Those should be up.
Yeah.
My team, if you can just send them over, can you send them over? That'd be probably.
Yeah, I'll send them all over, all the links, and then you can put them up there. Sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead and take us out.
All right, that's fine. And to quote my favorite political talk show, the Stephanie Miller Show, when news breaks here, it stays broken. So we'll be back next week with another episode of the M2 Techcast at 2 p.m. Eastern Time next Monday. For right now, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And you've been watching the M2 Techcast at PodcastDetroit.com, mitechnews.tv, Facebook Live, and a whole bunch of other places. We'll see you next week.
Well, I'm sorry I had that problem with the net.